And we are absolutely live on all the platforms here. So today,
Yeah,
y'all,
today we are about to get into the daily profit plan that prioritizes your marriage. But first, let me introduce who we are. I am Oil Buckley.
and I am Sway Buckley.
That's right, Marriedpreneur Strategist, co-host of the Marriedpreneur Life podcast.
Yes, and we're excited to be here. So one of the questions that keeps coming up, like a lot, is all about the whole balancing all the things, or juggling is another question, like word that's used. Like, how do we juggle it all? How do we balance it all without dropping any of the balls, right? And there's always so much that's going on, and that could take our focus over here and then over here. But I'm not saying we've mastered it, but I believe that we found a very solid rhythm for this season. And that's another thing. I think it's important to understand that every season has its own rhythm. And if we try to fight it by holding on or so tightly to the rhythm of the previous season, you'll find yourselves frustrated trying to balance the whole marriage and business and building together. And it's just going to look different for every couple and every season as well too. But there are some staples that we want to share with you all today that have really been consistent, I would say, over the last several years for us, as we have been, growing and building various businesses as marriedpreneurs. And some of these are not even us doing it together.
No, right? They're not.
So we are indiepreneurs.
That's right.
And
as well as
couplepreneurs. But some of you may be spousalpreneurs, where it's just one spouse running the business while the other spouse is working 9 to 5 or supporting in that way too. So it doesn't really matter what we're going to share. I believe it's going to be powerful and helpful for all three marriedpreneur types: the spousalpreneurs, the indiepreneurs, and the couplepreneurs. Okay, so for the indiepreneur, those of you who are indiepreneurs, it's when both spouses are building individual businesses, and couplepreneurs are, of course, when both spouses are working together or building the same business together. So regardless of whatever type you are, a combination of those, this is going to be helpful in this legacy lesson today. Okay, so we are excited to be here in the house and good to see you all too. Let us know where you're streaming in from, where you are streaming and calling in live from the radio show. Let us know where you're coming in from. We're coming in live from New Jersey on tonight. As we're doing that, I want to make sure everybody also, just a quick housekeeping update. The latest episode on the Marriedpreneur Life podcast is really quite significant for the time that we're in. It is focusing on 5 free visibility tools, business tools, that is, for married entrepreneurs to build their business even outside of social media, which is necessary these days, because we all know what has happened a few weeks ago with social media and what will likely happen again. So want to make sure that you all check that one out, especially as if you don't have a solid system in place for emerging marriedpreneurs. Okay.
I see you, sir. I think that's
St. Louis in the house.
Yeah, St. Louis. I think that's what 314, if I'm not mistaken.
How you knowing all the?
Coming from Chicago, it's like the next door neighbor.
Well, so there's only one area code though for St. Louis.
That would be the main one.
Because over the years there are more that come
absolutely, but that would be the oldest one, probably.
Maybe the oldest. Because I was like, would it still be the main one if new ones are coming in? Because some of the new ones may be the older ones, especially like with cell phones and stuff like that too. Just something, I don't know. They could let you know if 314 is that still the main one or the oldest one in St. Louis. You can drop that down there. Now, okay, I think that was mainly it. Also, before we go into this piece right here, want to make sure you all are aware that if you all are seeking systems, this is what we're going to be talking about today, and you're trying to understand what type of legacy systems you need to have in place and put in place. What do you say?
That's a zip code. I was saying area code.
It kind of looks like the 3.
I know it's a zip code because it starts with a 6, and that part of the country usually starts with 6s.
Oh, the zip code, the numbers, the area code is what you're asking for. I mean, you're asking for the.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I was talking about the area code though, but
that's good.
Zip is good too, bro.
So for those of you who are like, okay, what type of systems do we need to get to the next place in our business and our strategy? And then as we're building together, we want to make sure that you all are fully aware of our free strategy session. It's called, it's a systems assessment specifically for marriedpreneurs. So we have a link in the bio, but you can go to getsystemsnow.com. Just want to make sure y'all have that, getsystemsnow.com. to set up a special gift call. It's a free call, strategy session for you all. So I want to just make sure that that is clear before we dive into this. Now, shall we go?
Yep.
Okay. One of the things that we were saying that couples have been asking about is like, how do you balance all of the business stuff and the marriage stuff and then bringing them together, right? Well, we want to just share some personal tools that we've used, 5 to be specific, to make sure that you all can take these and include them. They are actionable and practical steps. The first thing, though, I would say is when we're talking about blending marriage and business, it's really important to be clear on what your ideal, like your ideal looks like. What does that ideal day look like? That ideal month look like? What would it look like ideally to, they say balance, but we really believe blend is a really, it's a more accurate word, because balance is such a tricky thing, and every season is going to be a little different. It's not really ever balanced, but understanding what that blend looks like. And so being clear first, having a clear vision of what you want that to look like in this season, that is going to be the first thing to be to know what, for both of you all, what does this blending of marriage and business look like ideally, not what it looks like for real right now, but what do you ideally want it to look like, being clear on that. Okay.
Yep.
Before we go into the five areas or tools that we want to share with you. Okay. So do you have anything else to add with that?
No.
Okay.
So the first one that we want to share with you guys today is the legacy meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The legacy meeting. Now, this happens for us.
Daily
It does in the morning, and we do this every day, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So it is daily for us. It's in the AM. And what it does is it's an opportunity for us to,
your head is cutting off.
It's an opportunity for us to establish our strategy for the day. And a lot of times when you think about all the things that have to be done in any given day, the reality is that it's going to be a lot, right? It's going to be a lot of things that have to be done, more than 3. For us, it's 3. And we narrow everything down so we can manage those expectations. So we start off our daily mornings with our legacy meeting.
Yeah, and this is one of the main things that helps us to prioritize our marriage, but yet still build out a profitable structure for the day, because every day may look slightly different. And then knowing what inside the day needs to happen business wise in order to keep things moving forward to reach our goals for that day and for that week, for that month, right? So that's the first thing. Now, within that legacy meeting, there's a very important question that we must ask in order to truly consider our marriage as a priority. So let me just break the question down for you. Here's a question that it is a must-have, a must-ask, I would say. The question is this:
what time are we done today? Now, that sounds simple, and it is simple, but yet not so simple, because marriage entrepreneurs can tend to run at such a pace, such a momentum, that if we're honest, we could be up on our laptops until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Until we fall out.
Maybe we stop for dinner,
maybe not.
Or we'll just work all the way through dinner. But when we say this, we are showing each other, by establishing a stop time, that our marriage is a priority, that our family is a priority. So what time are we done today?
And what that does too is it makes us accountable. It requires us to be accountable to one another, to our marriage, because if we say, oh, I'm going to be done at 5 today, or I'm going to be done at 6, whatever that time that is. And then it also manages each other's expectations, because if I'm expecting him to be done because I'm done with something, or I'm going to pause, and he's not, and I'm like, or vice versa, I think that's really important too. So you can make sure that you all are clear on what time you are stopping. Now, it's important though to communicate if anything changes with that. So that ties us into that. So that's the second thing. The second thing is to make sure you ask this question of each other each morning. So as you go throughout the day, you're clear and you're really tracking. And especially if you all are working full time in your businesses as we are, it's a whole nother level of discipline that's required. Like you can't just say, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna be at my 9 to 5 and do it here and do it on break. And then after work, it's like you have to really treat it and steward your time well, because it is a gift. And so now, with that being said, and our energy too, the third tool that we want to share with you concerning that is to actually honor the time that you say. If you say you're going to shut down by a certain time, and then do that. Or if you need more time, this is something that happens to us quite a bit too. Like, oh, I just need 30 more minutes, right? But being able to communicate that with one another, it once again, it manages expectations, and it's like, okay, cool. And it's not like, well, I thought you said, and then it doesn't happen.
Here's the thing about managing expectations, about honoring that stop time. It is a tool, absolutely, but it is also a discipline. You have to be disciplined because we're talking about honoring it, right? So if we're going to honor it, that means we have to be disciplined to do that. And so discipline, is doing something that you don't really want to do, but doing it like you want to do it because you have to do it because it needs to be done. And it's like, you know what? No, I said this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to operate in integrity, and I'm going to honor it. I'm going to stop at the time we said that we're going to stop today.
Yeah. We have a quick point in here. Do you want to finish him or go back to that? How do you want to do it?
Let's finish this and then
I want to, we're going to address that too. Okay, so that was the third one, to really honor that stop time and communicate with one another if you need more time or whatever that may be. Now, also, with that being said, we want to take you to the next thing that's really going to prioritize your marriage. And that sounds simple, but once again, it requires discipline. It requires you all to be on the same page with this. It is that it's necessary to have regular date nights or date days. Some couples are like, lunches work best for us because of how life happens. Cool, that's fine. But whatever it is, how frequent, however, but just make sure that it is a staple. And with that being a staple, making sure that during that date time or those dates that you all are, having this routine in place, that it does not turn into work 2.0. And then it turns into like a work meeting or about all the other things, everything except the two of you all. Right. And that's important because it's so subtle. And sometimes you can be like, well, what do I talk about? This is how it was for us when we started this discipline. Well, what do we talk about if we're not going to talk about work? If we're not going to, and especially when you love what you do, you really enjoy your work and your business. It's challenging.
There is a difference between working on your business with your spouse and working on your marriage.
Yeah. So being very specific and intentional with that is key. And so something that we do on our date nights, we do a couple of things, just kind of layer it to protect and guard ourselves, because we know we both enjoy what we do. And it's easy to be drawn into it because like you don't ever really finish, right? It's not like, oh, I'm done for the rest of the day. But really, you're always like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. Let me respond to this. Or I have this idea about that. It's all these different things. So yes, so making sure that you have these regular, we do ours once a week, and it just depends. Usually Thursday. If Thursday gets too crowded, then we'll do it on Friday. But just having that. So then we also make sure that we have discussion topics in place. Right now it's gotten a lot easier over the years, but usually we'll have something in place that we can they're like prompts for us to talk about so we don't go into business. Like, is that real in the field over here? Like, we have to have something to make sure that we are staying right in the zone of us, staying in our us zone. Okay, so having the regular date nights. Okay, here's your last one. Number 5 is this. This is critical.
Consistent wind down routine. And this routine has to be consistent for you to wind down. It's like exiting the expressway. You have a ramp, and a ramp is the space allotted for you to adjust your speed because you're coming from one type of traffic to a different type of traffic, and you need to be able to adjust in time. So when we talk about wind down routine, if you've been, running, 140 miles an hour all day, and now it's date night or dinner time, and you're trying to make that transition, if that transition is going to be successful and not abrupt, right, then you're going to want to have the consistent wind down routine, because what it does is it tells your mind, tells your body, hey, we're shifting gears here. We get ready to get into slower traffic.
Yeah. In a different lane. That too. You're about to switch lanes, and it's just a different speed and a different feel.
There's different rules on the highway and there's different rules on the street. And so you're about to go into something where where the game is different. The regulations, let me say it that way, are different. The expectations are different. The tempo might even be different. So
yeah. And so your wind down, when we're talking about wind down, we're really referring to our wind down, not from the whole day per se. We're really talking about a wind down routine from work. From like, how do we transition from our work brain and then go over into say, okay, now we're going into a non-work space, which it could be just going into family time or going into other things that we're doing. And it can be quite traumatic if you don't have a process to make it smooth. It could be kind of abrupt, like, whoa. And then you kind of have these open loops in your mind, like, oh, and then you go to bed with all this. Oh, I got to do this. I forgot to do this. I didn't email this person. Oh, I was supposed to send this off. Oh, I didn't create that. Like, oh, I didn't send this invoice. It's all these different things. So this is why it's important to have a wind down from work routine, so that closes up all of those open loops from the day. And so that's going to look different for each of us based on what it is that we normally do. But it may be something like you making sure that you check your email one last time for the day. Any things that did not get done that day that need to be carried over to the next day, you write them down for the next day, so they're already waiting there for you in the morning, and you're not trying to scramble and say, now where did I leave off yesterday? It's like just having a routine in place really does wonders. And then you kind of, when you close those open loops up in your mind and your brain, what happens is then you have more free space to actually be present with each other. We're talking about having a profit plan that prioritizes your marriage, that puts your marriage over the business, even while the business is being built and being profitable and expanding, especially as emerging marriedpreneurs as well, because there's so many moving pieces too. And then not to mention, if you have a 9 to 5 too, then you have all these other things going on. So this is so important to have this a clear wind down routine for you. Like, you have to know, what does that look like? What does it need to look like for you? And then you give yourself, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 30 minutes before your day. And then you use that as your 30-minute, this is my 30-minute wind down. These are the things I need to do. Any calls I need to make, any emails I need to send off, any whatever, and then move everything else over to the next day. Whatever you need to do, ritually putting some, music on that changes the mood for you. And then, like, that's your cue. That's one of the things that we do a lot too, is when we're making dinner, when we're in the kitchen, we'll have like jazz music playing. So it just kind of switches the mood. And we're like, okay, we're husband and wife. We're always husband and wife, right? But we're really just focusing on being at home and not entrepreneurs right now. So that's something that really helps us out a great deal when we're switching the mood each day, because otherwise it could be a struggle trying to stay on top of everything. Okay, so that's having a consistent wind down routine. We do have a bonus for you all. Let me bring this up over here.
Yeah, the bonus is this: no work zones.
Have them.
Yes, have no work zones. And I'll say this, and I'll let you finish it out. So no work zones are really two parts. It's a physical no work zone, but it's also a mental no work zone. So, but the physical supports the mental. So, in other words, if I'm going to say, that it's a no work zone, but my laptop's up and my inbox is open with notifications going, same thing with my cell phone. And what I'm doing is I'm saying no work zones in my head, but my environment is saying the opposite. Therefore, making it easier for me to be distracted from what I said the priority is right now. So when we say no work zone, we're talking about physical boundaries or borders, as well as figurative boundaries or borders.
Yeah. Can you speak to the cell phone issue too? Because that is a thing that will keep, if you're tethered to the cell phone especially while you're not working, it is an easy vice to bring you back into the mental space of work.
Yeah. Just do whatever you have to do on your cell phone in the way of putting up restrictions or what have you, so that your phone, it's not the phone itself.
Yeah.
It's the way our society has become tethered to our cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a timekeeper. It's a weather. It gives us time. It gives us weather. It keeps us connected to the world around us. Yeah. And so it keeps us always plugged in. So you have to put restrictions on your phone through limiting notifications, other features that will allow, pages to shut down.
Yeah.
Put, date limits on it. And so when we think about our cell phone, we've got to help our cell phone help us.
Yes, that's good how you said that. So just like some real practical things that we do with our cell phones is that you mentioned the time zones that we have. I mean the time frame. So we have it shut down at a certain time each day, and so it stays shut down until a certain time the next morning. So it's not going to be, even if it is the first thing that we see, it's already shut down. So we're like, okay, this is not what I want to do as soon as I get out the bed. It's kind of just a reminder and a protectant, the barricade for us to really live out and build that ideal day that we talked about from the beginning. Also, we turned off about 90% of the notifications. So we don't have our email notifications on there. We have most notifications don't even come to our phone. So if we need to see something, we'll check that. And sometimes you may think, oh my goodness, well, what if I forget? You won't. There's something about it that says, you know what, let me check my email. Let me, so it really helps with clarity. And then if you don't do that, something that you could do when you shut down for the day is leave your phone in another room and like not even use it until it's time to go to bed and just say, okay, shut it down. We also put our phone, we try to do it each night on airplane mode, just for the radioactive, all the things that happen at night. We just want to sleep well and have some deep, deep sleep. So those are some things, along with some others that we're working on doing and putting in place as well too. But those are really helpful to us. And so we talk about no work zones. So that definitely talks about date nights, and then having rest days that you're not. So on your rest day, whatever rest day that you're going to use each week, you want to have one. And then in that, you're not working, like you're not thinking about work. You're not reading about work. You're not listening to podcasts about work. You're not doing any of those things. You're actually resting, enjoying your Sabbathing. And that is so critical for us as believers to have this as like a pillar of how we live our lives, as a core principle. And it just really puts things in perspective and reminds us of the work that we do and why we do the work that we do, and then the way that we do it, and then who ultimately we trust as we do it. So there's like all these things that go along with it that really help us with discipline in that way. So we wanted to share these 5. I guess we can go real quick over them again. The 5 tools that we use to profit or prepare our day each day for high profitability, and protect our marriage, like protect and prioritize our marriage. So before we even got to the first one, really having a clear vision of what you want your day to look like. Ideally, do you want this blend of marriage and business to look like in this season for you? So be clear on that. Okay. And then the number 1 is
the legacy meeting,
daily legacy meetings.
Yes.
And then in that legacy meeting, you want to ask that very important question.
What time are we stopping today?
What time are we stopping today? And then the third thing is to honor it. Honor the time that you said, right? And then, of course, regular date nights. And then 5,
consistent wind down routine.
Yes. And then we gave you that bonus of making sure that you have those no work zones in place too. So we want to answer some questions or respond to some things earlier. And then also for those of you who are like, well, what do we do next? How do we put these systems in place? I mentioned earlier, and I mentioned again, for those of you maybe just hearing or just popping in, we do have an opportunity to do a complimentary strategy call with you. It's really a systems assessment specifically for married entrepreneurs to help you get clear about the systems that you all need to have in place now as you build your legacy, that are critical to building it without overwhelm, without stress, and really being on the same page and doing it powerfully in sync. If you know that you need this help, especially as an emerging marriedpreneur, you can go to getsystemsnow.com, getsystemsnow, getsystemsnow.com. And then you can see all the other amazing couples who have also done it, but then you can schedule a time to chat with us. And we recommend that you do that. And now let's answer some questions.
Okay, so it's not a question, it's really a statement, but I want to respond to that statement, and I appreciate you saying that, my guy from St. Louis. So you said you feel lazy on some days from 2 full or full and part-time jobs. I presume you mean jobs. Well, I would first say that if you're working like that, don't call it lazy. It's not lazy. It is rest that is needed. And we don't have to call it rest because we feel like we have exhausted ourselves in order to earn rest. Rest is not necessarily something we earn in as much as it is a discipline that we practice. And so when you're having those days off, thank God that you have those days off, because that's an opportunity for you to sharpen your axe, metaphorically speaking, again, so that you can go back into what it is that you do and do it, at the same level of proficiency. So again, those aren't lazy days. Those are days that you need in order to recharge and to refuel.
Yeah.
So take them with a sense of dignity. Now, that
Enjoy
being
it.
yes, enjoy it. That being said, if you are working to transition or to change, I don't know, you didn't say that you are, but let's just say that you are, or somebody else may be listening and watching this, then you're going to have to look at what can you do with those slices of time off, those days off. How can you allocate pieces of time, chunks of time, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour and a half, or whatever, as you work to transition, and recognize that transition is going to be a process. It's going to be an exit ramp, going back to that earlier example. And so when you're transitioning from one thing to another thing, remember, it's a transition.
And usually if the transition of anything is the most vulnerable part of the movement.
Yep.
Because it's like you're like part over here, or you're fully over here, and you're not quite all the way over here, but you're making moves to get to the other side. And so there's going to be some overlap, and I would definitely say some stretching. And that's a whole season in that vulnerable space right there. But it's easy to become overwhelmed or even stretched too thin if you're not mindful. So you want to make sure that you are getting that rest, but you're also you're disciplined to get the rest, and you're disciplined to do the work in your business. Okay, he said I had a business and a job. Yeah, so it's about being disciplined to do both. And of course, with anything that's taking the bulk of your time, it's just going to take a little more time to see those results, because your main, like the bulk of your day, your life is being, directed to something else outside of your business. It is definitely possible to do both together and to transition over, which is I would say one of our specialties that we help marriedpreneurs with. So that it's doable, but there is a very that thin place of that transition. It's thin because you are stretched thin. You are stretched thin, but it's important. That's why it's important to be disciplined to rest, and then also to be disciplined to do the business. And you may not have, all the time that you want to have to invest in the business. That's okay. But it's not so much about the time that you have to invest in the business versus what you do with the amount of time that you have to invest in the business. Yeah, you said the stress almost killed you. I believe it. I pray that you're getting some rest now. And as you look to do that yes, then if you look to do that again, really having a system in place so that does not happen, right? You have a preventative way to do it, a smart way to do it, and you have systems and strategies in place to help and support that goal and that vision. So I would definitely recommend you to check out this strategy, the call with us too. That link in the bio at getsystemsnow.com. We can walk through and hear what you're working on, and give you some insight on a smart way to do it. Because like I said, we've helped many marriedpreneurs transition the right way, a smart way, without that stress and overwhelm. Okay, hope that helps you out with that. Yes. Okay, anything else?
That's it. So you guys know what you need to do.
What they need to do?
Keep living
purposely,
powerfully,
and profitably in sync. All right. Peace out, Al. I have a good one.